Hello, friends. Welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the one true stop for all things 3DO and other things gaming related as well. This is Thrak taking over today because co-host Bill is sick over there. So, Bill, you're not dead, are you?
No, I'm not dead, but I got one of those wonderful summer colds because you only ever get colds in the middle of like 90-degree heat. So,
Exactly. It's for me. It's absolutely hot as fuck. It's been in the 90s for the last handful of days, and also the last handful of days I've been outside having to do things, which hasn't been great. For Sunday for our Father's Day dinner, we left the house at a quarter after 5 and didn't get back home until 8:30 because it took that long to get there, get seated, actually get served, eat the food, and then leave. It was a nightmare. Um, but other than that, things are okay. We're in. I think both of us are sitting in air conditioned rooms right now, so we're doing okay. I guess before we get into the topic for today, just to let all the listeners know that the day this comes out, that later that day we are recording, potentially live streaming, the first SuperPod Network special, where we will be going over the Nintendo Direct that just happened on the 18th, which is the day that we're recording this. So please stick in to listen to that since we are on the SuperPod Network. It should be a fun time. So that should be good. And I guess before we get into the game for this week, I guess I can do the traditional podcast thing. Bill, what you been playing?
uh, not a whole lot because I'm trying to catch up on my reading lately. So I haven't. Gaming's been kind of in the background for a bit. I started playing the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. It is excellent. I'm enjoying every moment of that.
It is very
Um,
excellent.
it is like a perfect blast of the past. I'm still playing South Park: The Fractured Butthole. I'm like getting close to like the third night, I think, where fun stuff starts happening. Still a good game. I'm enjoying every replaying that for like the fourth time now. Other than that, though, I'm mostly just trying to catch up on other forms of media. I got really big into CD collecting again recently because I have no self control sometimes. So I've been buying a lot of CDs because they're cheap and they're on the
They are
way out.
very cheap. They are very cheap. I suspect sometime in our lifetime, CDs will have their big resurgence, like vinyl. You know. But speaking of that, we had a garage sale last week. Made like almost $600 on it. Like we sold a
Nice.
lot of stuff, and actually, I had like a decent sized box of records, and most of them sold. Like they were a big hit. Um, and I sold a couple of CDs as well, and whatever was left, we just kind of gave away to Goodwill. We did get a couple of CRTs in there. I ended up keeping the one that we didn't sell, which was a very nice like VCR DVD combo one. So I decided to keep that. So when I eventually get my own place, I will be setting that up to play old shit on. But I've been playing Mafia Definitive Edition. You can
Oh,
see it right
nice.
there. I don't know why. The other day I was thinking about Mafia, probably because I have a physical copy of 3 over there. And I was like, oh yeah, they did do that remake of 1. And I looked on the store and it was like $20 for the entire trilogy.
Hmm.
So that seemed like a no-brainer to me. So, and the trilogy is you get the remake of 1,
Oh,
a
nice.
remaster of 2 with all of its DLC, and then 3 slightly tweaked with all of its DLC. And so I've put a good amount of hours into Mafia Definitive Edition. I haven't beaten it yet, but it is a genuinely fantastic game. It's been a while since I've played like a really heavy story based game like this and actually been paying attention to the story. It's your kind of basic mob story, but it does some interesting things. And what I like is it's you would think it's a GTA clone, but it's like kind of not. It's much more focused on like linear story missions because you have your story mode, which is just it's chapter based where you do all the main missions, and then later on you unlock a free ride mode where you can sort of drive around in the open world and find other little things to do. So you kind of get the best of both worlds depending on how you want to play the game.
Oh,
um
nice.
yeah, and I've been really enjoying it. It's pretty good. I did beat Doom 2016 before I played this, and that was a
Excellent.
fun game. But I know when I finished it, I was like, God damn, I think I like Titanfall 2 better.
It's
I don't know.
fair.
Dune 2016 was fantastic, and I will be playing Eternal when I finish Mafia. That's probably the next game I'm going to jump right into is Doom Eternal, and we'll end up playing through the Mafia trilogy as well. So that's
Nice.
all really I've been doing.
Oh, I
I
did.
want I want to get back into reading. Here, one second. I
You know,
want to get back into my reading, but it's just I haven't had a huge amount of time to do other things. So that when I get a little bit of free time, it's just trying to stay up with this stuff.
nice. I did actually play one other game. I completely forgot about this. We had a conversation over on the SuperPod server recently, and one of our buddies over there, Jeff, made a comment about how he hated LA Noir, and for some reason, it sparked me to want to play it again. So I was playing a little LA Noir recently.
Yeah, to be fair, LA Noir is a divisive game.
Oh, it's not a great, like perfect game by any means, but I like how goofy it is.
I like it. I think I really wish it was either that team or somebody else would tackle this LA Noir idea. Like being a detective, reading facial expressions, and this like heavily focused on solving cases the proper way, kind of. It's such a really, really cool concept, but I think it is let down in some ways by like this really fancy technology that maybe hasn't aged the best.
Yeah,
Trying too hard to kind of fit into some sort of like rock star ideologies when it doesn't really need that. And some other like story issue things like
yeah.
your main guy Cole is kind of an asshole.
He takes a
Um,
nosedive as a character towards the end of the game, which is very
yeah,
bizarre because it completely comes out of nowhere.
yeah, and then and an issue that a friend of mine brought up many years ago was that he wished there was a way that like you could genuinely fail, say like asking the questions, like say when you're going through asking people the stuff, if there was a way you could genuinely mess up the cases, like that's an interesting idea. That might be a little too much for a game,
Yeah,
but like maybe making it a little bit more open ended, where it's like you can totally like fuck up a case, but you still keep going or something.
my favorite is like at the end of every case where you get your damage bill for all the pedestrians and like traffic you've run over.
Yeah, because it's weird that game is presented as an open world, and I think you can kind of drive around in the world if you want, but there's really no reason for it. So
There's little like things to find, like the film reels and like secret cars and stuff, but like there's no point in really doing it.
exactly. I mean, I'm hoping the Mafia Definitive Edition there is more stuff to do in free ride, but I'll let you guys know. The good thing is it's a separate mode, so even if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. So, which is nice, and it does retain a lot of the crazy realism that the original Mafia has, where it's like you have to follow traffic laws, and if you reload, you lose like all the bullets you have if it's like a half filled clip or whatever. But it's all in like a difficulty mode, so you can just switch to like a more modern, easier kind of difficulty mode if you want. So, and it's really neat. So, and apparently there is a fourth Mafia game in the works.
Oh, cool.
So, and it'll be interesting to see if they go further than Mafia 3, because Mafia 3 is in 1968 in Louisiana, or if they go even further back, because the original Mafia is in the 30s. So they could potentially, I was thinking, go back to like when the Italians first immigrated to the United States and kind of, the formation of the Mafia in general, or they could say maybe go further into like mafia activity, like I say in the 70s or the 80s, when kind of perception on like gang violence and all that was kind of changing in like the Reagan years or whatever. But who knows? Who knows? Mafia 3 is a very interesting game though, because I don't know if you ever played it.
It's a series that I've dabbled in, but I've never really gotten super deep into.
Okay, yeah, because Mafia 3 is you are a black military vet coming home from Vietnam, and I guess you were kind of raised by the mafia down there, and then you come back and find out that they've like the cops have like disbanded and like murdered them or whatever, and so the game is you rebuilding them up.
Oh, okay.
And it tackles a lot of like the hard issues of the 60s, like racism and civil rights and all that stuff. And I'm told it's done really well. Like these games I think do a good job of portraying a more realistic side to organized crime, You know what I mean? Like like nobody feels really like caricatures. Everybody feels like the genuine article. You know what I mean? Like it's presented closer to say like maybe how like a Coppola movie presents this stuff, like a little bit more on the realistic side. So
Yeah, it's not like Scarface where it's just goofy as fuck.
no, it is not. It is not. So, anyways, so we're here to talk about a different game, a game that maybe is related to LA Noir, and that there is a detective things
It's
involved. And this,
in a way, yeah, sure.
yeah, and this was a game I was really, really looking forward to playing because when I saw the cover and looked at it, all the stuff I saw, I was like, oh, this game looks like it might be right up my alley. And that is, hold up your long box, Psychic Detective. Now, for some reason on 3DO, this is super cheap, but on PS1, it's really fucking expensive.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I'm not sure why either, but yeah, Psychic
I'm
Detective.
I'm gonna like flat out say just from the start, I both loved and despised this game at the same time.
I could see that. I could see that. Let's see. I'll read a little bit of the back of the box. It says, "Mind surf the Black Diamond with Eric Fox. Enter the mind-altering life of psychic Eric Fox. In this first thriller of a case, Black Diamond, you head trip into a sinister, extrasensory enhanced world, trying to solve the mystery behind the madness. Creep around in the lives and minds of the people you meet to discover their bizarre relationships and evil agendas. Interpret the clues you find in the retrocognitive flashes you receive. Throw your psychic weight around to get what you want, but be careful. Hop into the wrong heads and you could wind up a shambling idiot." That's how I felt playing this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an ESRB game, so it's a little bit later, and it's EA. Weirdly enough,
Sort of. The development of this game is interesting because I could not figure out exactly how much involvement EA had. Apparently, they were involved slightly, but the majority of the game's development was handled by a studio named Colossal Pictures.
yes, they were like an entertainment media company that did like television programming and that kind of stuff. My guess is Colossal Pictures probably did all of the like the filming and at like say the digital picture side where they would film everything. And then maybe EA came in say on the game development side to kind of piece together the UI and all the controls and that kind of stuff. And then they ended
Yeah,
up producing it under the Electronic Arts Studios name, which is,
which
I think,
is
the first time I've ever heard Electronic Arts Studios.
it was on one other game we played earlier, but I cannot remember for the life of me which one it was.
Yeah, me either. So this game comes
Oh,
on 3 discs. Oh, go
It was
ahead.
on Shockwave.
Shockwave. Okay. So yeah, so this game comes on 3 discs, and it has 2 manuals about the movie and playing the movie. So, as you could guess, this is an FMV style game where there's actors and acting happening, and there is some form of interaction on the screen for the player to feel like they've immersed themselves in the movie without really doing so. It's, I wanted to like this game, and I think you could probably tell because you know me, I love the FMV games, right? And this is so close to falling into that area of like say a Night Trap or a Sewer Shark where it's like I'm having a good time with it,
Mhm.
but I overall my time with it wasn't very high.
So the way I found this game was it started off really good. Like I was like super interested. I mean, I love the cheese, like the complete cheese ball acting. Like the acting is the one thing I really like about this game, just because
It has a great intro.
it does, and it is so absurd in like almost every way. I like that aspect of it. It kept me interested, but the plot by the time you get to disc 2 just completely goes off the rails, and I was so lost on what was supposed to be going on. I'm still not even really sure at this point.
Yeah, and I tried to find like a plot synopsis online and couldn't really find one. Like Wikipedia doesn't have one. So it's definitely one of those games that if you were taking very extensive notes, you could probably piece it all together. So basically, the plot of the game is you play as a guy named Eric Fox who
Played
looks like
by Evan Brez. Nahan.
He looks like fuck, what's his name? Jamie Kennedy. He looks like him a little bit. And so he's a psychic, and like one of like the actual psychics where he can like genuinely read people's minds and like actually view life through their vantage points.
But
But it
he
also,
works at like a rec center or something.
yeah, like he's like one of those, like almost like those carnival acts that like guesses your weight or something. Like that's kind of what he's doing. He's like a magician, showman, entertainer type of guy, right? But yet every time he goes into somebody's brain, there's like the weird psychedelic trippiness, that like 90s commercial surrealism thing, is
Get ready to
present.
hear a lot of screams.
A lot of that, yeah. It's like being in a nursery.
Also, I have to point out that like one of the best like lines he has at the start of the game is he makes this point about like one of his favorite parts about working at the place is that he gets all these like, groupies. But then like a few seconds before that, he makes a point of also stating that the majority of his audience is old people.
So he's just fucking old ladies.
I was like, wait a minute.
Good for him. You know what? Why not? They need love too, right?
It was like one of those things where I think they wrote that and they didn't think about it for like beyond like the actual line.
No, I think there was a lack of thought kind of present throughout this whole game. So, anyways, he's doing his act, and then this lady named Lena, am I saying that right? Lena?
Yeah.
She shows up, and I think she's Russian. I
So
think.
she's played by Beata Pozniak, who the Polish, Polish woman.
Close enough. And she I don't know how she finds him necessarily, but
I love how she starts her first conversation with him. She's like, "My
my
father
mother
died recently."
died. Like,
It's like
yeah,
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 that's how you start a
yeah.
convo.
We get no context for her really at all, other than she just shows up in like a leather jacket. It just somehow is allowed backstage where Eric is, and then just basically tells him that like, hey, my father died. The circumstances are mysterious, and since you're a psychic, I would like you to try to help me figure out who done it, basically. And he's just like, sure, why the hell not? This would be cute, right?
Pay me, and maybe we can get it on later. Basically, that's basically how he phrases it.
Yeah, just total 90s sleazeball. And
But
so you do, and then the game starts. It's so, is it weird to you that when there's like cutscenes, they increase the size of the FMV to where it fills the whole screen, but then when the game starts, it turns into like just this little small square in the center of the screen.
it's
It's like, do you
annoying.
need this much border? Do I really need to see the guy's eyeball in the corner that much?
I think it has to do with the way the 3DO streams the video. Like because there's other stuff going on in the background, it can only have so much video on screen at once.
But there's not that much going on in the background anyway. It's just a border.
I think it has to do with like the gameplay mechanics and stuff. I'm not a tech guy, like a programming wizard by any means, so like I don't know exactly, but I think there's reasons for why it has to do that because I think like when it's just playing a cutscene, it's literally just streaming the cutscene, but when it's doing gameplay, there's actually multiple video clips loaded at once, and the way it switches behind, I think it's a memory issue, honestly.
That's probably why. It's just very strange to me. You know.
I will say one thing I really like that this game does from a presentation standpoint is obviously the main gimmick of this game is you're essentially it's kind of like Night Trap, only instead of clicking on cameras, you're literally putting your brain in other people's heads.
Yes, like the gameplay functions exactly like Night Trap, where it's a constant, continuous video. I mean, you can pause it if you need to, but yeah, it's just like long and continuous. And yeah, instead of clicking through the additional cameras just to find the vampires to kill them, right? Yeah, you're implanting yourself in the brains of other people so you can try to see all these different vantage points to try to figure out what exactly is going on. Because there are some characters who are more suspicious than others. Um, but the idea of the game is that you play it multiple times so you can see all of these different vantage points and try to like piece it together for the best run in a sense.
And
So it
what's
has sort of so it's similar to say like a Night Trap, but I think Night Trap works better as like say a solo play rather than a constantly repeating play
yeah.
because you don't have to replay it multiple times to get everything. You know what I mean? Like if you're just trying to beat Night Trap, if you find a walkthrough of where to go, whatever time, you beat the game in like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And in this game, kind of in theory, you could do the same thing. Beat the game in about like 30-ish minutes if you know where to go specifically. But the thing is, like conceptually, I think this game is stronger than Night Trap. Because I love the idea of this game.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely love it. And it's as far as I know, it's never really been attempted again, where it's like, oh, you're a detective, but you're also like a genuine psychic, and so you could use those abilities to help solve crimes, right?
Mm.
Like it's such a really interesting idea, and presenting it in this sort of FMV way I think allows them to have some more weird trippy visuals and make it come off as like a almost like a weird surreal TV show.
Mm.
Like it's very David Lynch, you know.
Yeah. Like
I,
what I
I've
was
I've mentioned it before, but like Twin Peaks was such a huge influence on a lot of 90s media that was trying to
mm,
be experimental. And Psycho Detective, I think, fits perfectly into that. Like they watched Twin Peaks and went, oh, we should try something like that.
mm. Like one thing I think is really cool is the way that they handled the filming of this game is they actually, because you can go into literally anybody's head on the screen at like different times, they actually film every single the same scene from every person's perspective, and they all stream simultaneously. So say you're in a conversation with one character and then they're having a conversation with another character. If you switch between their two heads, the scene it like is like seamlessly switches, but then you can switch over to say like Chadster over in the corner and he's doing something else over there.
Mm-hmm.
But then
It,
what's I was going to say, but then what's really funny is your character, he, because you're not in your body at the time, you always wonder what he's doing. He literally just wanders around. So like when you like go back to him, sometimes he'll just be staring at a wall or just like a cigarette on the counter or like a cat or something.
Yeah, he's kind of Blair Witched in the corner. And yeah, the transitions are, I think, as seamless as the 3DO could make it. Because there were sometimes I would switch between a scene and it felt like a good vital couple seconds went by the of stuff that's like, oh, I probably could have used that, you know, because in these kind of games, you feel like every moment counts, every word counts. So you're trying to keep track of everything. But it's it I think it could work better, but I feel like this type of idea is meant more for say like a point and click adventure game,
Hmm.
or if you wanted to get a little bit more modern, like say like a Life is Strange kind of thing. Cause I was thinking that I'm like, this could work as like if they wanted to do like a Life is Strange sort of in this idea where it's like you're a detective, or say like, you know, Max Caulfield, which the new one is starring her, but like say she, you know, becomes like part of like she becomes a detective because she wants to try to use her powers, you know, for the betterment of other people, right? And you play it almost in that kind of sense. But here it's I just don't think the concept and the execution gel as well as they could be. And I don't know if that's limited by the technology, like the game developers themselves, like the game design being flawed, or maybe it's a combination of them. I'm not too sure. But it for me, it never really comes together. You know, like that first disc when you're kind of going through that mansion and you're
Oh
like
yeah.
clicking on all the different people, and then there's like the specific items. Because if you click on an item, you get like a very weird, like psychic, like flashback or something, right?
Like
Where
to
you
me,
try,
like the one that got me the most was when you're talking to Chad, who's like a one of those like snake oil salesmen. He's always trying to sell you something. He
yeah, a lot of chest hair flowing out of there.
Yeah, the Chadster, as our main character likes to call him. He has like this like cat paw thing, and like you stare at it, and then it just like cuts to this like cat jump scare, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, very weird. Um, but yeah, I think you'd agree that that mansion section, like that first part, is probably handled the best.
It's the most comprehensible.
Yeah, because you kind of figure out like, oh, you know, like say like Sylvia, she's kind of like a she's very sus, right?
She also
Um,
had the ability to kick you out of her head, which was interesting.
That was, and I don't know if they ever really go further with that.
No, because she like dies pretty soon after that, or like in the next disc, I believe.
If she does, I don't remember. But another issue I think the game has is that like the transitions from the discs are basically the exact same no matter what you do,
Yeah,
which really hurts the game in this sort of idea of choice. Because not to get too far ahead of ourselves, there's 14 endings to
yeah.
this game, and I saw like 3 of them, and they were, I don't know, man.
This game is like,
I did 2 on here, and then on YouTube I watched what's considered the best ending.
yeah.
So, and they're whatever. You know what I
This
mean?
this game is like, I think the definition of the concept of like true art is incomprehensible at times.
Yeah, it can be very abstract, and I do like abstract art, but this game, it's like having a game be abstract art, especially with something like this, which is trying to be like a story based thing.
Hmm.
You know, like leaving it open to interpretation. I mean, can kind of work, but again, it's just I don't think it's executed strong enough to have that sort of effect to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
especially because they're very much trying to tell a serious story here, but this is 90s FMV game levels of acting, so like a lot of the acting comes off way more hilarious than it should.
I do think the quality of acting is for this era FMV games, I think is decently high.
I think the
Like
problem is,
it's not as good as say the Gabriel Knight games, especially Gabriel Knight 2. Like the acting in that game is fantastic. Or even what was it called? Like the Black Dahlia, which I think it was like in like 98. Like the acting in that one is pretty strong. Even Phantasmagoria 2 to a certain extent has some like decent acting in it, but it's also kind of cheesy in its own way.
the X-Files game's another pretty good one.
Yeah, yeah. Like there are some like definitely really strongly acted FMV games from this time. Like I don't even want to bring up the modern ones
Hmm.
because earlier this year I played through Immortality, and that's like the Sam Barlow game, and that's probably the best game I've played this year. And that is incredibly unfair to compare that game with this. So I'm not going to do
Yeah,
that. But even for its era, I think the acting isn't bad. Like
it's not bad.
there is some kind of cheesy corny actors, but it feels like it's more specific to that character. You
I
know what I
think
mean?
honestly,
Like the main villain is kind of hammy, but I feel like he was meant to be kind of
yeah,
hammy.
I liked him. I think honestly, the weakest actor in this game is arguably the main character in a lot of ways.
Yes, yes, I cannot stand Mr. Eric Smarmy ass Fox who has to
Like
make everything a joke.
my favorite line, like another great
He's like
line
Nathan
is,
Drake without the charisma.
yeah, another great line is like when you first arrive at the mansion party, and what's her name? Uh,
Lena,
Lena. She's like, that's where he fell from, my father, and he literally just goes, ouch, and I'm just like, what?
it's so weird, man. Like this game is just very very unique, but unfortunately being unique doesn't make it good.
Yeah, like it, especially in disc 2, like there's another a great scene where you're leaving from the party and you drop off, you're essentially going your separate ways, and then you decide you have to tail her, and you just like,
Monica, who is Lena's sister.
yeah, and you're just right up her ass with your headlights on. It's like, how does she not see you?
like I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's like Joel Haver or whatever, where he does those like rotoscope videos, and there's the one where it's like, oh, when you're tailing the NPC, and they're like, oh, is that car that's weirdly suspiciously 20 feet behind us, like following us? They're like the whole time. He's like, oh no.
Yeah,
You know, like when you tail people in video games, it's always like you have to be this far from the car, and it's like that's not weird at all, right? But yeah, in this game, you're just right up on her ass, and
and
you think,
she was just in the car. Like, you're not going to expect that. And then when she gets out of her car, she walks right towards the car, looks at it, and then walks away. And it's like Like, okay.
Yeah, she was probably like, "Oh, he has plot armor. I have to keep moving on," you know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, she goes to the bar, I think, and then like Sylvia's at the bar looking at like secret government shit or something. I'm not quite sure. Because she's looking at like a picture of the White House on like a fucking TV monitor. And then there's like that other guy that comes up to the car and he's like, "Hey, you need to like, hey, I need to get in the car." Or, like he's trying to salesman you on something. And you have the choice to either let him get in or tell him to fuck off. You know, which is interesting. The game gives you quite a bit of freedom of choice for an FMV game,
Hmm.
in that you can. There's so many different people you can sort of, as we said, like get in their mind, and some of them you can stay in there for like a good long fucking time. And then you know, say like you can tail Monica or not tail Monica. You can tell that dude to get in or not to get in, you know, like it's trying its best to have variation within the FMVs itself, but until you get to the very end of the game, it never really changes that much, you know, because you can also do nothing.
Hmm.
Like you can just put the controller down, just follow Eric the whole time, never go anywhere or do anything differently, but the swapping from each disc remains the same. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's what hurts the game more than anything, is that it's an illusion of choice rather than actually being a choice. Kind of Stanley Parable in that way.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, this game's biggest issue is just the fact that like the plot literally loses it's basically loses all sense of where it is by the time you get to disc two.
Yeah,
And
because there's like that one guy who gets murdered at the mansion, right? And then
the Chadster,
the
R.I.P.
Chadster, and then people just like leave that party, and then you start getting visions of this like other dude getting murdered, and then it's like you get there right in time to see him get murdered or not, and then the cops take you in for that, but like the cops never go with like the mansion murder, and so I think it's like disc 3 opens with you in jail, and
And the way he
And
tried,
then Lena comes and sees you in jail, and then you just are let go. You know, like I'm assuming she probably like paid your bail or something. But if you're a murder suspect, my guess is you don't have a bail, and if you do, it's probably not enough for her to pay it. Like that didn't make any fucking sense. And then yeah, you meet like sort of the main guy who he's like a corporation business guy or whatever, and he's doing this ad campaign about like the war on depression, which is such like an American way to tackle anything. Just make it a fucking war, then people will care about it for some reason. And then and yeah, there's like the game completely goes off the fucking rails. Like the idea is he's meant to help figure out these murders, but then like murders are happening and you're not quite sure what the hell's going on. It almost feels like you're following Eric losing his mind the whole time. But the game isn't going for that, you know?
yeah, it's like the scene, like one of my favorite scenes is when he is in jail and he's being interrogated by the two officers. Like his reasoning and what he's explaining is perfectly reasonable to him, but like just the way he says it makes him sound like he's straight up like a meth head.
Yeah, yeah, it makes him sound very fucking guilty.
And they're
But
just like, what the hell is this guy on?
and then they just let you go.
Yeah.
There's like someone here really likes you, and then Lena just picks you up, and then you just go on as if nothing fucking happened, and you never see those cops again.
Yeah.
Like it's a shame when like fucking Night Trap has more consistency than this.
This feels like they were trying to be really ambitious and they like wrote themselves completely into like it was like they it's kind of like the Spider-Man clone saga where they just kept adding shit to it and it got more and more convoluted as it went on to the point where
Yeah, it gets really muddied. The
yeah,
water gets really muddied.
like there's point A and point B like beginning to end and then like the everything in the middle is such a jumbled mess that like just getting to point B is almost impossible.
Yeah, yeah. Like if this game had a much better script, I think it would have been able to deal with all this other like really weird shit. And yeah, as far as like gameplay goes, there really isn't much gameplay beyond this stuff, except for the very end, which is referenced a little bit because you start in disc 1, then you go to disc 2, then you go to disc 3, and then you go back to disc
Just
1.
yeah.
which is weird. And then disc one has sort of the finale, sort of, where it's referenced earlier in the game that there's like this weird like board game, this like weird colored board game thing, and then you end up playing it with these like weird, like I don't know, like the souls of these people or like or something. And then if you do them in certain specific ways, that's how you trigger the different endings. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing this at this point, and like how to like it's like how and why I was moving things to where they were, because like the representations for things were incredibly vague. And at this point, the game had kind of lost me. So I was just kind of moving random shit around until I got something resembling an ending.
Yeah, I kind of fudged my way through it until I got an ending. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and even if you look up, say the best ending, it's not even really that good. It's just kind of like it's almost like a what you expect kind of ending from something like this.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just it's so underwhelming and like kind of disappointing because I thought this could have been something really cool, and I think it has potential to be something kind of cool, but it never really meets that expectation. And I don't know, maybe it's just because the people were making this was probably their first attempt at something like this, and maybe they just weren't sure of what to do with this. And as far as I know, they never made another game.
so I actually did look that up. They only made 4 games in their entire existence. And
Okay.
so this wasn't their first game. Their first game was a educational looking game called Rough Spone. Oh, it's a living books. It's a living books game. That's okay. So that's educational.
Hide your
Um,
kids, the book's alive.
they also made Play-Doh Creations,
I mean, who hasn't made Play-Doh creations?
and their fight. What the fuck is this? Their final game is Koala Lumpur: Journey to the Edge, and the game art is
Oh
literally a
hell yes.
koala that got run over. Like, what the fuck is this?
Hell yeah. Now we're talking. Fucking
Um,
broader bun. This is like a PC thing. I guarantee you this is on my abandonware. I guarantee
I
it.
bet it's an adventure game, but puzzle elements.
Let's see.
Oh, what the
There it
fuck?
is, baby. What did I tell you?
So that's a
Uh
thing.
it's got it 4 out of 5 at it from 2 votes. And I'm seeing the screenshots of it. It looks like a point and click adventure game in the 90s on the PC.
Yeah,
That's
that
what it
cover
looks like.
that cover art though
Oh yeah, but
is
and the thing is, seeing it as more of like your typical point and click adventure game makes me go, well, that's probably what they should have done with Psych Detective.
honestly.
Yeah, which is a shame because it I feel like this game could have been something special. You know what I mean?
I feel like if it was made nowadays, like this idea, like by a studio that's like tailor made for doing stuff like this, and they had a better writing team to actually make the story make sense, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like this
yeah.
could be good.
Sam Barlow, if you're listening to this, remake Psych Detective. God damn it, you can make it work.
Or
You're a
make a
smart.
game
You're
with
a
a
smart
similar,
guy.
or make like a game with like a similar concept.
Yeah, this whole like yeah, taking over people's brains and trying to use it to solve like a murder case, and then just getting involved in all this weird fucking shit. Like because in a lot of ways, immortality is kind of that, where it's set up to where it's like, hey, this person went missing forever ago, and we're trying to figure out what happened. So here's like all these clips from that we could find of her from like the 3 film project she did and some other stuff kind of surrounding it, and like watch these and try to, piece together what happened kind of thing. And then there's interesting twists and turns that happen as well. And there's hidden clips within the clips. And to be fair, Immortality, probably its biggest issue is that the story it tells is very non-linear. So probably when you finish the game and get everything, you'll probably be like me and type in like Immortality story explained. Like what the fuck was that, right? And then you read it and go, "Oh, okay." Then it all kind of figures out. Whereas this, I'm sure there probably is a story synopsis out there somewhere that kind of puts it all into perspective, and maybe that helps. But I feel like the game should do a better job of that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I
because at least with Immortality, like the game is just acted so much better and it's so fucking intriguing and interesting the entire way. And then there's a lot of things you pick up on as you play the game that, if anything, the synopsis is meant to help piece it all together for you. So you can be like, oh, okay, that's what I'm. Because I did the same thing with her story, where I had a rough idea, but then when I looked it up later, I went, oh, okay, that's what it all meant. You know?
Yeah, I did read apparently this game, like the creators actually took it and they like removed the game aspect and like edited it together as like a short film. And I guess
Y-
they actually presented it at film festivals for a while, which was
Yeah, I would like
interesting.
to watch that. As far as I know, it's not available.
There are
Um,
YouTube recreations of it,
yeah,
um, at least from their idea of what it could have been. Um,
yeah,
so that's something I'm actually kind of interested in. It's probably lost media at this point, but
that would be my guess as well. Because when you look up Psychic Detective on YouTube, you get say like, oh, the best ending of the Grand Slam, where it's all put together. There's like an hour and a half long like long play of it, and there's people like talking about it for sure. Because it is a game that is rather interesting, but it just never again it never comes together, and to me that's a shame because I really wanted to like this one. Like I thought this would have been fucking cool as hell, but unfortunately it just wasn't.
it,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean it's a good idea. It just was not executed well.
Yeah, like this is in my fucking wheelhouse, but it just, man, this was probably the saddest one for me, unfortunately,
Yeah,
because I was hyped to play this one, man.
I mean it's sad because I did really like playing it, but my god, it was so fucking frustrating. Like there,
Yeah, yeah, because there's just so much random shit going on, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a modern gamer. Like I'm so used to having subtitles on all the time that
yeah.
when old games don't have them at all, it makes it harder for me to like keep track of everything. You know, I was trying my
Honest
best.
to me, like my favorite part of this game was just how absurd and out of left field it could get at times. Because there was so
Oh
many
yeah,
moments where like the character would just say something, and I'd be like, "What? Like, where did that come from?"
yeah. It's style over substance with this guy. So
Yeah, like
a genuine shame. I'm just this episode made me sad.
yeah. Um. So reception wise, this game was mixed for the most part. A lot of people liked its presentation, but found the story confusing, which is seems to be the
Yep, it
general
has
consensus.
it has a solid presentation, and I feel like the production value in the film part of it itself is like decently strong.
Oh yeah,
It's probably like somewhere between like a made for TV movie or like more of like a low budget theatrical movie in terms of the production value, but it's not bad at all. And again,
no,
I think the acting quality is like solid. I think it's shot decently well. Um, and it feels like it was a professionally made product. It didn't feel like plumbers don't wear ties, this fucking amateur, ramshackle production. But
yeah.
that unfortunately is more memorable than this.
Is it sad that I would rather play that?
No, I feel the same way.
Like, I mean, this like is entertaining, but like that's Plumbers is entertaining for an entirely different reason. Um,
Exactly.
this is more like it's entertaining, but you just kind of feel empty after playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's like, "Oh, that was interesting." And then you're like, "But what was that? Like why did we do that?"
Like it starts off so strong and then just falls off a cliff like
Yeah.
by the second disc.
And it's sad, man. It's sad.
Um, yeah, I mean, other than that, like there's like no menus really in this game. It's pretty much you start it up
No.
and the game goes from there.
I,
Say,
I will say an important little fun fact about this game. The music was composed by a man named Patrick Gleason. And if you know your jazz history, Patrick Gleason for a short time worked with Mr. Herbie Hancock during
nice.
his Mwandishi avant-garde period. And for funsies, since I have it right here, he first appeared on Herbie Hancock's Crossings record from
Oh, nice.
1972, which this album is fucking amazing. It is complete off the wall avant-garde jazz music, very like Bitches Brew inspired, like experimental stuff, but it is really, really fucking cool. And Patrick Gleason does a bunch of electronic synthesizer stuff all over it in almost like a post production sense. And then he ended up joining the band and even performed on their follow up album, Sextant. But when the Mwandishi band was disbanded for being too big and not really financially viable, Patrick Gleason unfortunately left and never worked with Herbie again. But later on, he went to do a bunch of soundtracks, like and other things as well. Like he was a producer and engineer on Devo's first record. For a long time, I had an album of his called Patrick Gleason's Star Wars, which is him doing like a weird synthy version of like the Star Wars music. It's not like the famous like disco version of the Star Wars theme. This is much more like out there experimental Star Wars stuff, but it's kind of neat for what it is. And yeah, he was involved in like a lot of film soundtracks, like Apocalypse Now and The Bedroom Window, things like that.
I mean,
So
I
you know,
like the music in this game. Like, it's not
yeah,
anything amazing, like, but like for what it was, it worked perfectly for the environment and what was going on.
exactly. Like you can tell, Patrick Gleason, he's very much like a synthesizer kind of guy, and you know, kind of in a weird way, was a early pioneer of synthesizers and what they could do. You know, like he might not be as famous as say Wendy Carlos is for pioneering what synthesizers could do in music, but I think is a bit of a lost to time name that should get a little bit more recognition. So that's a little fun fact I threw at you, and a little jazz history for you. So
Nice. One other fun fact too I discovered was so I was going through the actors in this game, and most of them are pretty much unknowns. The only one that has a Wikipedia page I could find was actually Bieta Pozniak, and I was curious if she'd done any other video game stuff, and she actually, ironically, she didn't do anything after this game for almost like 2 decades, and then she came out of nowhere, came back, and she was the voice of Scarlet in Mortal Kombat 11,
well, good for her.
like just randomly out of nowhere. So
Well, maybe maybe she needed the money.
You never know. I just think
Yeah,
it's funny. Like I
yeah.
looked at her video gamography and it literally goes from 1995 to 2019. I'm like, oh,
Which is pretty fucking cool. So shouts out to her.
yeah. So now, must play okay, stay away. I'm just gonna.
Oh man, fucking man.
This is cheating, but I'm literally just gonna say, just look up the cutscenes on YouTube. That's really the best recommendation if you
Watch a
really
let's
need.
play. Watch a
Yeah,
let's play of it. It like watching it and playing it are basically the same experience.
yeah,
So yeah, you're better off just doing that. If you're interested enough, just go to YouTube, look up a long play or look up the one of like the best ending. Just watch that. Like the best ending one's like 36 minutes. So you're kind of in and out. So just go ahead and watch that and probably go, huh, that was weird, and then move on with your life,
yeah.
which is what
Like,
you should do.
because honestly, like if you don't own a 3DO, I wouldn't recommend getting one to play this. Um, and obviously the PlayStation version is weirdly expensive. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure this game is easy to find on PC, but
it's on my abandonware if you're curious enough.
yeah,
For some reason, on price charting, the 3DO version, loose is 19.99, complete is 40.51, and new is $94. Whereas on the PlayStation 1, loose is $89, complete is $136, and new is $355. And I have no idea why. My guess is it must have had a much shorter print run on PS1, or maybe people just think the PS1 version is the better version. But from what I gathered, there's virtually no differences between either of them. So I don't know.
yeah. Like this one's just disappointing. I think this has been probably the most disappointing game I think we've covered so
Ye-
far.
yeah, because I think we both thought this would have been a gem. This
I
would have
thought it
been
was
something kind of neat.
see, I thought at the worst it was going to be so bad it's good. And
It doesn't even do that. It's not Super Shark. Like Sewer Shark is so dog shit that it's kind of amazing. Like, but this yeah, it doesn't come even close to that, unfortunately.
See, this is like you see the potential and it just lets you down, and I feel like that's worse.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is the worst way to handle it. So so you broke my heart, Eric Fox. You broke my heart.
I'm curious when we do the ranking where this one's gonna go because
Me too. Me too. But
there
I
we've
won't.
we've we've played some shit, and I want to know where it ranks with among that.
Yeah, we're getting close to that, aren't we?
Yeah, this is episode 44.
We got to do at least a handful more games before we get there.
Yeah, and we're coming up on the year anniversary since we restarted the show, which is
Can you believe it,
crazy.
folks? Can you believe it?
I can't. I don't know where the year's been.
We've gotten dozens of followers since then. Thank you guys. You're great.
We actually have. Berger was saying that we got mentioned on a server completely unrelated, so that's something.
Do you think he showed off his clout going, "Oh, I know those guys"?
No, knowing Berger, probably not.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, "Oh yeah, I know those guys. They're assholes."
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that.
The typical Burger response. Love you, Burger.
Yeah. So do we have an idea what we want to play next? Or
See, the other day I was looking. I went through my collection and I kind of sorted it between what we've played and what we've not played. And my discs of what we've not played. Hold on a second. Just the discs, not the long boxes, is like this. These are the games I have that we haven't played. And the ones we have is probably about this high. So yeah, we're starting to, or at least on my side, we're starting to get a bit low. But you know, is it do you want to start doing the golf games, or are you not ready for that yet? Because I know you wanted to do all of them in one go.
um I think we could start preparing for that. I know Aaron said Aaron's starting to finally play Trip, so that's going to be coming eventually.
Okay.
Um,
I still want to do Captain Quasar, but I know that's a pricey one.
yeah, if worst comes to worst, I'll emulate it.
Okay. I do have a game that I think I bought randomly called Starblade. Do you have Starblade?
I don't, but I can look into it.
It's a cheap one.
I'll have to look into that.
It's this guy, and it has Namco on it. Yeah. So could be something interesting. I don't know.
I know you don't have it yet, but we also have Zadnos, the People's Party, which is a
oh yeah. I haven't looked into that yet.
It's the third and final game in the Twisted trilogy, as they call it.
Yeah.
So,
maybe not do that one next, but I could probably order that one to do later on.
you know, they're not that in depth. Let's do the golf games next.
Yeah, let's do it. There's how many of them? There was like 6.
So we have we're going to cover 5 of them. I believe we're going to do the EA one. There's that fancy one, and then there's the 3 that are basically the same game just with different clubs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pebble Beach, Wilele, and Wicked 18, I believe.
I believe so. Yes. So we can. Yeah, that'll probably be a 2-weeker, so we can play them all and kind of put them all together. Yeah. So and then maybe after that we'll do a Zadnos People's Party, because looking at it, the prices for it not terrible.
Yeah, the jewel case is pretty cheap,
and that's probably what I'll just end up getting.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll plan for that. But in the meantime, guys, so we announced at the start of the show tonight we're going to be streaming the over on the for Superpod Network. We're going to be streaming our thoughts on the recent Nintendo Direct. So if anyone's interested, be sure to check that out. And other than that, do you have anything else to shout out before we close this up, or?
Nothing really at the moment. Of course, we are part of the Superpod Network, so if any of you listening don't listen to Superpod Saga, Ghost Radio, and Novel Console, all those boys. Make sure you check those all out. Go to the website, superpodnetwork.com. There's a growing blogging scene in there where people are writing like little articles about things. I have a couple in there. Bill, I don't know if you have any in there yet.
I'm working on a top 5 Atlas games project with Aaron
Okay.
and Adam right now. So and Dre.
Got
so that
you.
should be coming out eventually.
And I have some ideas for blogs I want to do down in the future as well. So we'll keep those up, and the network specials. We'll probably start doing a few more of them for more like bigger events or to kind of wrap up the game club as well. We'll probably do that probably near the end of the year. So yeah, make sure you follow along in the whole SuperPod network, and eventually we'll probably be throwing in like little ads or whatever bullshit in there, whatever Aaron wants to do. I don't know.
Yeah, once we figure all that fun stuff out.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and shout out to Herbie Hancock. Listen to more jazz, people. It's good for your brain.
Also, listen to Budgie. I've been listening to a lot of Budgie lately.
Yeah, listen to Welsh Geddy Lee.
Yeah. Bread fan people. It was early heavy metal. Damn it.
What, that Metallica song?
Sure. And the Megadeth song "Melt the Ice Away."
Yeah. I mean, they did get some Roger Dean covers, so good on them.
True. All right. But anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the 3DO Experience. You can find the 3DO Experience on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find all of our links at linktree/thebarberwhogames. And you can join us either at the GNC Podcast Studios Discord server or the SuperPod Network Discord server, where you'll find all of us and all of our nonsense over there. And
nonsense.
Some wild stuff happens over in the SuperPod server. That's all. I saw an argument with Barack Obama and a fucking owl a few days ago. So,
as it should be.
But anyways, guys, once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
Bye-bye.